Good afternoon. It's the 8th of August 2025 and I'm sitting here in Victory Park in Girvan in the southwest of Scotland, and you can see the clouds behind me. It's been a bit of a changeable day, you know, it's sun in the morning and then clouded over, a little bit of rain, then it's brightened up. I've come out to the park here to give information and to help you to understand and try and get to grips with what I call the extraterrestrial intervention into the affairs of planet Earth. And it's, I believe, been a long time intervention occurring over thousands of years. But today I want to drill down and I want to take up the points I raised in my last video. In my last video I mentioned as a way of guidance a template I created for you to look closely at witness testimony and evidence and people who are saying they are whistleblowers. How do we discern the truth of what they are saying? When the truth comes out, it purifies us. It separates lies, hyperbole, exaggeration, and gets to the core elements. And right now in the world, that's so difficult, isn't it? With all the wars going on and the fights between various governments and various people in authority. And even I believe the universities are hidebound and stuck, and at times are not giving us the truth. But let me go quickly to the points. An alpha claim, I believe, on this issue of extraterrestrial intervention is one where we know for sure that the evidence or the witness testimony is correct. 90, 99, 100%. We come on to a beta category. That's one where we think that what's being offered to us, if it's witness testimony again, or video evidence or photographic evidence, is plausible to a high degree, but we're not sure. There still might be some doubts. It still might not be completely concrete. The witness testimony may have contradictions in it, and it may not be completely clear. The person who's giving the testimony may say one thing at one conference and then 2 years later contradict herself or himself. This is quite common in this field of investigation. Testimony tends to waver and meander around a little bit. Then we come on to the gamma. Gamma is, well, it's less believable. It could be. We're not sure. The story doesn't quite thread together. The evidence shown may actually, like, for example, somebody saying there's been a UFO crash. It turns out that no, it wasn't a UFO crash. It was somebody testing a rocket of some sort that exploded and the debris came down, etc., etc. So it's this kind of testimony where people are jumping to conclusions, but perhaps in the long run they may be correct. Through time, the story might thread together. So it's one of doubts, and it's one we were not sure. We come to the delta category. The delta category is one where it's implausible. The story doesn't hang together. It's chock full of contradictions. It borrows from other people's testimony. It's just groundless, and therefore we dismiss it, and rightly so. Occasionally, very occasionally, gamma and delta may have some truths, and we may be surprised that perhaps a gamma category may actually turn out to be the truth, and that our presumptions were wrong. Then we come to the last one, which is one I've kind of created myself from the Greek alphabet of truth indications. and that's epsilon. Epsilon is one where I feel the there's a strong degree of truth, but it has been deliberately muddied, and perhaps the person that was given the permission to give a witness testimony was deliberately given muddied information so that when that information comes out, people can always say in authority or in the Air Force or in the Space Command or in high government position, well, look, he said this or she said that, and we know that's not true. So it's a kind of a safeguard, I think, and I think well, particular person that fell for this trap was Corey Good in the United States, but I'm not going to talk about him today. I'll talk about him later. Today I'm going to concentrate on two important whistleblowers. One is Alex Collier, and Alex Collier, his first name is actually Ralph, and I believe his second name is Armagan. He's near to my age. I think he's 1 or 2 years older. I'm not sure. I don't know his date of birth. He claimed, going away back to the 1990s, that we're being visited by the Andromeda, the Andromeda Alliance. It's a group of extraterrestrial beings that have come under a super alliance. They're not a military alliance. They say that they're more interested in doing scientific experiments, finding out what's going on in our galaxy, monitoring other ET groups, perhaps competing with them. They also claim that they are able to foresee timelines in the future, and they came to Alex and told him that the Earth was in danger, that the Earth, Moon and Mars later on this century, the 21st century, would be a breeding ground for the establishment of a control matrix in the galaxy, a tyranny. And they had looked at this down this timeline, this how they're able to break down time and look at the future. I don't know. It's like a prophetic ability that they have. And they came, and apparently they came here in the past, according to Alex, and Alex was with them at that time. He was killed here on Earth, and then he reincarnated, and they've traced his energy signature, and they know that in the past he was one of them. Now, the Andromedans, I believe, are good people at heart, but I think they have pressing needs. And Alex has actually said that they have. One of the problems is, I believe, that they travel around in very large spheres, moon-sized, and in these spheres they have adapted an environment. So it's a bit like a traveling spaceship with everything that they need that's grown inside. They recycle the water. They have giant parks, and they have giant areas where they grow crops. I believe they are vegetarian. And they are very much engaged in, as I said, in scientific research. And so they have, everybody on the ship has a function. He says he was taken up there, and he was introduced to two characters, Morine and Visayas, and they communicate telepathically with them, but Morine learned to speak English. It's just started to rain. I'll keep going. And Morine told Alex about Earth's ancient history, and Earth, the position of Earth is a bit like the position of Malta in the Mediterranean Sea. And Malta is a very good port, the island of Malta, and its neighbour Gozo. It's been colonized many times by different humans, the Phoenicians, the Carthaginians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Knights of Malta, Then later on, with the war between Napoleon and the British, Napoleon conquered Ireland. Then it had the Arabic influence. It's so many groups coming through, leaving their products, leaving their forms of government, introducing new crops, introducing new species to the island. It was a safe anchorage. And going all the way back to the time of the Phoenicians, so that's maybe 800 BC, Malta was on the trade route to Britain, because they came through Malta, stopped there all the way from Phoenicia, which is around the Lebanon area, came through, sailed through, stopped there. Maybe they picked up water, they had rested for a couple of days. Then they sailed to the Straits of Gibraltar, which was a gate coming out into the Atlantic Ocean, and up through the edge of Spain and Portugal, right across from Galicia through to Cornwall, and they called Britain the Tin Isles. And tin was very valuable for them, because tin enabled them to make bronze weapons, and bronze, of course, was in high use for many different things during the time before iron was in common use. So the Earth is like that, according to the Andromedans, and also other space whistleblowers have said that the Earth sits in a position where many different ET groups have come and gone and left their imprint here. And you're going to say, oh no, these all our creatures are, made by God, and He put them there, and that's it. But think a little bit more deeply than that, friends. Look at Australia. The marsupial animals are so unique. Why is that? Is it due to evolution? No, I don't think so. I think they were deposited here from somewhere else. And going back to Alex Collier, this is his story. And the Andromedans came to Alex and asked him to go publicly and explain the situation of Earth. They said that that we must come together and spiritualize ourselves a bit better and waken up to the reality of the universe and decide what we want to do. Perhaps join their alliance. They say they're not military. They don't do a lot of trade. They say they're self-sufficient, but they do have genetic breakdown, they say, and they need a genetic upgrade. And our species is perfect for that, because we are composed of 22 different ET races that have come here and mixed their genes with our basic gene. It's a hard one to get around, isn't it? Because if this is true, and this is maybe why the governments are not telling us, it means that all the religious stories from all the religions are lacking and not true. False. Doesn't take away from the value of religions, but it questions their dogma, and they are being tied to beliefs that are now out of date. Scientists are constantly hybridizing and breeding different species in the botanical world and in the animal world. We know this can happen, so this is a product of science. So they say, the Andromedans say, that this has happened to us, and it would explain the difference between the Africans, the Chinese, the Persians, the Arabs, the Europeans from Scandinavia, the Southern Europeans, the American natives peoples, all the way from South America to North America. The Eskimos, Eskimo, Turkish meaning the old people. This has never really been solved, or no one's come up with a good reason. We talk about, well, it's to do with adaptation to the environment. No, I think this is a weak answer. I think we've been bred by beings that have come here. Maybe they've come for a couple of years. They've brought down their scientific teams. Maybe they've crashed here and had to interbreed with us to survive, but they've kept that secret. That's also a possibility. Anyway, moving on to Alex Collier again. I think Alex Collier's material is worth studying. I give him a B category. That means I think that he's able to convince us that yes, this group does exist. I think my battery might have finished. I don't know. We'll see. Going on now, I believe that just like as in the case of Malta, where many different peoples came, if we take the British Empire, they came to Malta, they offered modern technology to the Maltese, they rebuilt the harbour, repaired the forts, brought in income to the Maltese. However, during the Second World War, the Italian forces, Axis forces, bombed Valletta harbour and bombed Malta, and so it wasn't such a good thing after all. And later on, in 1979, when Malta got independence, there was a move towards the non-aligned movement, because the Maltese said, we don't need to belong to any group. If we want to join the European Union, okay, but we don't need to be under anybody else's control. And this is where I think Alex's work may be falling down a bit. He's very enthusiastic about the Andromedans, but should we join their alliance? I think that's a difficult one. Despite the fact there seem to be good people and offering us things and helping us out, we don't know enough about them. I would also suggest that their ships and the way they live is very controlled. It has to be like that, because if you're living in a huge spacecraft and everybody has a function, and Alex has said this is the case, that their work is their enjoyment, and everyone has a specific role, although their education takes a long period of time, they're very bright and intelligent. They seem to be unable to be innovative in the arts and music. Alex introduced jazz music to them, and they were amazed and thought, wow, this is amazing. And especially the Andromedan children really liked it. Why? Because I think their creative potential had certain limits, and they themselves hint about this. There's a certain stagnation in their society, so this is where we become important. Maybe we could be teachers for them, but I don't think we would like their lifestyle. And would we want to be part of their organization? Well, that's not for me to answer. That's for a future generation to get more experience of what's really going on in the local galaxy. We don't know enough about it. We've been given some knowledge by whistleblowers who seem to be telling some truths, but the government is still holding back, maybe because they don't know themselves. So I'm pushing myself forward, and I'm trying to waken people up with this, with my own insights into it. I could be wrong, I accept that, but I believe that I'm on a track, and the track is showing things that are evidential and are very much worth considering. Now, I'd like to go on to to compare Alex Collier's work with. There's one more thing I must say about Alex Collier's work. He did mention on one of his podcasts about 3 years ago, when I was following his work, that in the Andromeda galaxy there are huge motherships the size of Neptune, and there's two, and on each of these motherships there are almost 1 billion beings living. They're of different species and they have different functions. Now that to me suggests that this kind of arrangement may be much more common in the galaxies, but it would be, my goodness, it would be so restrictive for us. Because if you were living in that environment, you can't suddenly walk away and drop out and say, no, I don't want to be part of this operation. You couldn't do it. You'd have to go and you'd ask to have permission to leave and escape and go to another world and live there. Maybe you'd be given a few tools to help you. But I think that their societies must be restrictive, because they have to be like that, almost like the communist society under Mao Zedong, when everybody had to wear blue suits and they had certain functions and you couldn't express anything above the party line, it could be like that. So this is a warning sign that I'll come on to the next person now and compare his testimony to Alex. I'll come on now to Marshall Vian Summers. And Marshall Vian Summers is the one who's gone to UFO conferences and thrown a spanner into the works, saying no, all these ET groups visiting us are here for their own advantage, for their long-term advantage. Despite the fact that they may seem reasonable, they may, offer us technology, they may explain that, well, we've come and visited you for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and this planet is part of ours as well. He says that this is a bit of a ruse. He says that they want to establish a basis here, and they want to integrate into us, our societies, so that we integrate to their greater society. He says that the first groups that came, I'll backtrack on that. He says that the ones who came in the past, that gave their genetics to us, have all left. And anybody who's our real ally and our real friend is not here now. This is to enable us to distinguish friend from neutral party to foe. So Marshall Vian Summers and his son Reed Summers are saying that no, they're all competing with each other, and just like the early seafarers who were visiting Malta, they wanted Malta under their influence. So the Romans wanted Malta under their influence. The Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Knights of Malta, Napoleon, they wanted Malta under their control because it's in a good strategic position. And Marshall Vian Summers was told by his spiritual guides that the Earth is in a very good strategic position. That also accounts for the huge variety of different life here, and it also accounts for the interest in our planet. It's so rich in resources that have been deposited here over millions of years and have thrived. Also, our sun apparently is still relatively young, and our planet is not old by galactic standards. And the ET groups here, as I said, view the planet as being a prime jewel. This is what Summers says, and a place of tremendous worth. And they've intervened more recently because they're worried that we'll blow the planet up and destroy 3/4 of the life here. And if we were to do that, it would be no use to them. So go back to Malta again. Imagine there'd been a huge war there, and the island had been burnt, and the fort had been knocked down, and the water poisoned. That would be a difficulty for the neighbouring peoples of Sicily and Africa and Spain and Greece, and the Lebanon, who wanted Malta as a base for themselves. So this is what Marshall and his son are saying. They also say that these different ET groups are conducting experiments in hybridization, trying to match their genetics with ours, that they want to establish bases here, they want to influence our religions, and they want to come across with, well, you shouldn't trust your governments. He believes also that they are creating some conspiracies that are not true. He also says that despite their gifts and their presence, they are not sincere. They don't want to kill us or wipe us out, but they want, I believe, he hints that they want a reduction in the population, and they want to use us to enable them to garner our resources. So they still want farmers, they still want industrial production, they still want people manufacturing things for them. That's what he's saying. But they are competing. There are many different groups competing with each other, and that's why we see different. The girls are agreeing with me. That's why we see different ET craft coming and going, and perhaps also the governments. They're offering different things to different governments, and this is a danger, of course, because if the Americans get one thing, the Russians are saying, "Hey, the Americans get that. Well, who can we ask to get this this special faster than light technology that will enable us to go out into beyond the confines of the solar system?" So, as you can see, it's a very complex picture. Now, my assessment of Vian Summers is, I think there's some truth in what he's saying. I wouldn't say it's an alpha, but I will give him credit because I believe he's worked hard at this. He's not made a lot of money. His message is kind of getting through that we should not have romantic ideas about, space people. So I think there's something in it. What I would be disappointed with his group is that although he gives this general picture and he doesn't specify any race in particular, and he doesn't say, well, is it the reptilians or is it humans or is it the insectoids or there's a lack of specific details. Maybe also his Christian background comes in a little bit, and he's maybe feels he's slightly like a prophet. That's just human nature. It's just maybe a small thing that he's not noticed himself. But I would advise you to have a look at his site, The Allies of Humanity. As I said, I would give him B. It's plausible. It's realistic. This is how nature works. Whether it's in the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom, there's a constant competition. Why would the roles be different out in space? They wouldn't be different. We presume that these people are highly spiritual, but they still have to survive, and then they need resources. They need a body, and to function in the real universe, in the material universe, despite the spirituality, they need resources, metals, water, food, sunlight even. Okay, thank you for listening, and I wish you to explore further yourself and try and open up your minds. We really need to open up our minds on this, and I shall leave you with the girls here in Scotland, and I'll give you a quick look around in the park here. You can see the beauty here. And up in the hills at the back there are sheep farms. Over here we've got a nice adolescents playing fields. Cost $2 million, I believe. It's good for the kids. They come down and they play six-a-side. There's rugby posts here. They make a bit of a noise, but still, the neighbours are not too happy about it. But, well, it can't please everybody. Thank you very much, folks. See you soon.